guys, it's the RC Genius, and welcome to Master of the Minis Part 2. If you don't know what we are doing in this series, we're basically taking these model tractor-trailer trucks for the moment, just tractor-trailer trucks, and we are going to be turning them into radio-controlled vehicles and making a little working RC city. The name for this project was given to me by Isaac Lyons. Be sure to check him out. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description, and also, if you haven't seen part 1, check that out. It's in the top right corner. If you didn't see part 1, I'll kind of go over this right now, what we did. We did mount this steering servo onto the main plate of the cab, and so now we do have a steering servo in here that will actually be functioning, and hopefully will give us some pretty decent steering for the front two wheels. What we're going to do in this part is we're going to put some things back together. We're going to put some of these plates back on, mount this piece back on. The only thing I did off camera between part 1 and part 2 now is I did cut this piece so it will fit with the steering servo saver on the bottom. So that will be good. And we're just going to put some of these parts back on, and we're going to try and mount these front tires back on, so that way we have moving and steering front tires. We're not going to set up the steering linkages at the moment, but we will try and get these to mount onto the vehicle again, and I have some ideas of how that's going to work. So let's start by putting these pieces back on. And what we're going to do is we need to actually put these on before we put on that back piece, because the screws actually get covered by those fuel cells. Alright guys, so there we go. There is the back half, or the side parts, and now let's put the back half back on. Now, what my idea is for these is what we need to do is we need to figure out a way that these can kind of suspend away from the truck and not have any rub on the underneath. So my idea was to actually take some screws, put them through the top, and then screw them in just through the top section of this steering knuckle, so that way they will kind of rest up there. And that really should work, as long as we have enough room in the front for the wheels to turn. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and put this front bumper in as well, so that way we have pretty much the full look of the dimensions of what this truck will be and where exactly we need to mount these wheels. Okay, and then obviously when we're ready, that cab will go back on just like that. But we're not going to mount that on yet because we still need to get underneath here. So if we just mount that like that, we should be good. Alright, so what I think we're going to do is we're going to do what I just said. We're going to just pop it right in there. So how we need to do that is kind of just go right in the center, I think. So I got a drill. Let's get the drill, and then we can make a little hole, screw those in, and we should be good. Alright, I think just a little tiny hole. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I am just screwing this in from the top, and then we should be able to mount this guy right onto there. So I think that actually worked, you guys. Look at that. We do have rolling motion. The wheels can still spin. I think that actually did work. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we should really be good. And we'll have an idea now of how this steering is actually going to work. As you can see, we have enough room between the servo saver and the steering knuckle, and I think that this is actually going to work. The steering is what the hardest part was going to be. So if we can get this steering to work, I think that the rest of the truck should be just fine. Alright guys, so I've got the two wheels on. Kind of just did a little time lapse there. So now we have moving steering on both wheels in the front. So that is very, very good. I'm very happy with that. I'm actually pretty pleased with how that actually turned out. So I am glad that that worked. Obviously, both wheels are able to roll pretty well, so that's also good. And I think that this is coming along pretty well at the moment. So, what we're going to do next is I think we'll take a little bit of a break from here, and instead we will now go and start taking off the top of the trailer and seeing inside there and trying to get some of the electronics in there and set up. So let's start doing that, and then we'll wrap up part 2 and leave part 3 for maybe setting up the motor and also actually maybe turning on some electronics and seeing that everything works. And also we have to set up the steering linkages here too, but we're going to take a little bit of a break from that for the moment. Alright, let's get the trailer now. Alright, so the screws have all been taken off now, so should be able to just, yep, there we go. So now that's separated. This is just going to be the cover. This is going to be pretty easy to work with because obviously this is just like a giant box. Let's get some of these screws out of here. Try and get all these out so that way we keep them and don't lose them. Got one here. A lot of screws that have to be taken out of this vehicle. There we go. That one. Alright, that's it. So, I'm keeping all of these off to the side here so that way I don't lose them. And what we're going to plan to do with this is we're going to put our ESC and our receiver in here, and also the battery is going to be able to fit in here. So, let's get the receiver, ESC, and battery. Alright, so this is the battery I'm going to be using. It is a very small 6-cell, 7.2 volt, 1200 milliamp hour battery. Obviously that is going to fit easily up in there. This right here is a airplane receiver that will be able to just go in here. I'm not going to put any waterproof box around it because this truck is not going to be going through any water. And right here is my ESC. This is a Latrax ESC. I'll take it out of the package here. There we go. Now, one thing that I discovered when I was looking for the parts for this build is that these wires, most of them, at least for the receiver and the servo and the ESC, they have these little tabs on them. And so I wasn't quite sure what to do because right here on this airplane receiver, there is no slot for those tabs to fit through. So I did some research, and I also called some people, and basically they said just cut it off with the X-Acto knife. So I'm not going to worry about that at the moment because I pretty much know what I have to do there. Now, something that I'm noticing here is that this ESC actually doesn't have any screw holes. I'm guessing you probably can just use a little bit of that adhesive kind of stuff, like the 3M sticky pads, and just set that on there. So I think that's what I'm going to plan to do. I'm just going to put that there. Now, one other thing. This has to be as close to the front as possible because these two wires for the motor have to be able to reach the motor on the cab. So let's see here. The motor wires are not very long. Here's the motor, so we should be able to reach it. Otherwise, we're going to have to come up with some kind of extension for it, but it should be okay if we just mount this right here. So let me get some adhesive pads because I did not know that did not have screw holes, and then we can mount this stuff and we'll wrap up part 2. Alright, we got a lot of stuff here on the table, but first, I'm going to mount this adhesive pad to the ESC. Just like that. That should be fine. And then we're going to peel off the other side here. And again, we want this to be as close to the front as possible, so we shouldn't have any issue with that cover for the trailer being an issue, because there should be plenty of room here. So as long as that just fits over, let's make sure it does. Yeah, we got room. Alright, so that can go right up in there. And then this one, another pad, and this one is going to go for the receiver. Just like that. Alright, so then we will figure out how we want to curl up that antenna later. I do have an extension, wire extension for the battery, so that way this will be able to reach all the way from here to there. And obviously it's also an adapter, because this is a TRX or Traxxas connector, and that's a Tamiya type connector. So we're just gonna use those, go from there with that. Got this stuff mounted up. This will be able to go right in there to that channel that needs to be set up. And we are also going to have to drill holes in the front of this, so that way we can fit these two wires out of that. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for this part. We've pretty much mounted this stuff on. We have got steering wheels set up. Part 3 will probably set up the actual linkages for this, and also we'll try to see what we can do for a motor and try to get all that fit in with part 3. So, thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you like this series so far, please give it a thumbs up. Any suggestions or any comments you have about the build, please leave them in the comments, because I love reading what you guys have to say about it, and hopefully you all think that this is pretty cool. I think that it's going to turn out pretty well. I was a little bit worried about how steering was going to work. Steering was the thing that I was worried about the most, but so far, so good. It appears that this is going to be pretty successful, hopefully. So, thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time on the RC Genius.